Have you ever wondered what would happen to the Earth if it just stopped spinning right this second? Here are 10 reasons why that would be a very, very bad time for everyone. Reason 1. Momentum. It starts at 0 seconds with the immediate problem. Momentum. The moment the Earth stops, everything not physically bolted to the bedrock keeps moving east. And I mean everything. You, your house, the oceans, and the atmosphere. At the equator, you are moving at over 1,040 miles per hour. That is nearly twice the speed of a commercial jet. When the ground stops, you don't. You get launched sideways at supersonic speeds. It's not a fall, it's instant biological liquidation. The G-force alone would turn your internal organs into jelly before you even hit the wall. Even further north, in places like London or Vancouver, you are still traveling at 700 miles per hour. That's enough speed to turn a human body into a projectile capable of punching through concrete. Buildings get ripped off their foundations and pulverized into a debris cloud instantly. There is one tiny loophole. If you are standing exactly on the North or South Pole, the rotation is 0. You might feel a slight lurch while the rest of the world turns into paste. But honestly, surviving that first second just means you get a front row seat to the apocalypse. Reason 2. Global earthquakes. By the 5-minute mark, we realize Earth isn't the solid rock we thought it was. We think Earth is a perfect marble. Wrong. It's a squashed pumpkin, or if you want to be a nerd about it, an oblate spheroid. Because it spins, it's about 26 meters wider at the equator than it is from pole to pole. When the Earth stops spinning, that holding force is gone. Nothing holds Earth in that pumpkin shape anymore. Now, gravity rules the show, and gravity is a perfectionist. It wants the Earth to be a perfect sphere. So, the equatorial bulge falls. The crust at the equator sinks about 13 meters to get that spherical shape. Meanwhile, the poles are pushed upward. This isn't slow geology. It's not continental drift. It's a snapback, a rapid elastic rebound. Result, a global earthquake nightmare. We're talking magnitude 11 or higher. These quakes are so powerful they don't just shake buildings, they shatter the tectonic plates themselves. TOR scale is logarithmic, magnitude 11. That's thousands of times stronger than anything in history. The mantle adjusts, crust snaps, pressure changes are violent enough to trigger every volcano on Earth at once. The ring of fire erupts simultaneously. Supervolcanoes blow. New mountain ranges fold into existence in seconds as plates crash together. The ground liquefies as the planet literally reshapes itself under its own weight. Before we move on, I want to give a quick shout out to my supporters. You guys honestly make videos like this possible. Also, do you want to help decide what the next video is about? Supporting the channel gives you a vote on future topics, so you can have your say. There is more information on how you can support in the description below. Reason 3. Supersonic winds. 15 minutes post-event. Let's say you survive the momentum. Maybe you were in a bunker or strapped into a very secure pilot seat. It doesn't matter. The next thing that hits you is the wind. We've never seen anything like this. Global, supersonic winds. The highest wind speed ever measured on Earth was about 253 miles per hour during a tropical cyclone that shredded houses. The winds triggered by the Earth stopping are 4 times stronger than that. We're talking winds that would peel the paint off a tank. These aren't just gusts of air. Remember, the atmosphere has mass. It weighs billions of tons. When the solid Earth stops, the atmosphere keeps spinning at 1,000 miles per hour. That air is moving faster than the speed of sound. Relative to the ground, it's a supersonic wall. Air moving this fast, it compresses, creates massive continuous sonic booms. It's like a nuclear blast wave that never ends. The friction is unimaginable. The air rubbing against the ground generates intense heat. They call it aerodynamic heating. It's the same physics that makes space shuttles glow red hot upon re-entry. The air itself turns into a blast furnace. It incinerates anything the wind hasn't already flattened. Reason 4. Mega tsunamis. 45 minutes in, the water catches up. This is the third punch in the combo. Water is heavy. And just like the air, it has momentum. Right now, our oceans bulge at the equator. Because the Earth spins, centrifugal force pushes a massive amount of water toward the center of the planet's waistline. The moment rotation stops, that holding force vanishes. But the water's eastward momentum stays. What happens next? A global mega tsunami. Hollywood movies look like a bathtub splash compared to this. We are not talking about a 100-foot wave. We are talking about kilometers of ocean moving at jet speeds. Within the first hour, a wall of water miles high races east, crashing over the continents. The fuel, the planet's own kinetic energy. Coastal regions are wiped out instantly. Even if they survive the kick in the winds, they get hit by a slurry. It's not blue water, it's a thick, churning mix of rock, metal, debris, and mud acting like a giant sheet of sandpaper. This water has enough momentum to travel hundreds, maybe thousands of miles inland, washing over entire mountain ranges. The sheer weight of billions of tons of water slamming down is enough to crush underground bunkers. It creates a global slush effect, crashing back and forth across continents for days. Reason 5, thin air. 2 hours later, while all that chaos is happening, physics starts getting weird. If you survive the winds, the waves, and the quakes, you probably wouldn't notice. But the Earth stopping actually makes you lighter, at least at first. While the Earth spins, the centrifugal force acts against gravity. It tries to fling you off the planet. You weigh about 0.5% less at the equator than at the poles. Because of this, the moment Earth stops, that lift vanishes. Everyone on the new equatorial megacontinent gets heavier. 0.5% sounds small, but the gravity shift combined with the change in air density is a huge deal. The atmosphere acts like a fluid just like the oceans. It also flows downhill toward the poles where gravity is stronger. This means the air gets thinner and thinner at the equator and thicker at the poles. The new equatorial megacontinent, that vast land bridge where the oceans used to be, would be left with extremely thin air. If you're standing on the new equator, you are essentially in the death zone of Mount Everest. The air pressure drops. You'd struggle to find enough oxygen to breathe. You'd pass out from hypoxia within minutes. Meanwhile, at the poles, the air would be so thick it might become toxic, crushing you under the weight of the sky. Reason 6, polar oceans. Give it 24 hours, the sloshing stops. Then it gets even weirder. The map of the Earth changes forever. The map you memorized in school gone. Remember that equatorial bulge? The centrifugal force was fighting gravity to keep the oceans gathered around the middle of the planet. Without spin, gravity doesn't have to fight anymore. It starts pulling all that water toward the poles. The Earth is an oblate spheroid, meaning it is fatter at the middle. The equator is about 13 meters further from the center than the poles are. Gravity pulls everything downhill toward the poles. The oceans drain away from the tropics. They pull at the north and south poles. Entire continents in the north and south drowned. Once the water settles, the world map is unrecognizable. Instead of the 7 continents, Earth now has 2 massive separate polar oceans. One covers Canada, Northern Europe, and Russia. London, Berlin, and Moscow are under miles of freezing water. The other ocean swallows Antarctica and the southern tips of Australia, South America, and Africa. Between them, a single continuous megacontinent wrapping around the equator. The Atlantic and Pacific Oceans drain almost completely, revealing the seafloor. You could theoretically walk from Brazil to Nigeria across a vast, salty, muddy plain. This new land bridge would be littered with the wreckage of our civilization, sunken ships, submarines, and the dying remains of marine life. It's a completely alien world. Reason 7, hypercanes. After about 1 month, assuming the dust settles, the global weather system totally collapses. It rebuilds itself into something terrifying. Forget the Weather Channel. This is weather warfare. On a rotating Earth, we have the Coriolis effect. It spins the hurricanes. It drives the trade winds. It breaks our weather into 3 pleasant cells per hemisphere. Without rotation, the Coriolis effect is gone. Atmospheric circulation simplifies. It goes radial. Those weather fronts we know gone. Instead, hot air from the center of the day side rises and flows directly toward the coldest point on the night side. You get massive superstorms, permanent ones. Right at the border between light and shadow, where the scorching air of the sun side meets the freezing air of the dark side, you get a wall of storms that never dissipates. These aren't normal storms. They make our current Category 5 hurricanes look like a gentle breeze. We're talking about hyperrains, continent-sized storms, winds vastly exceeding anything possible today, reaching straight into the stratosphere. Lightning storms would rage continuously for months, striking the ground millions of times a day. These strikes would start massive wildfires that no rain could put out because the rain evaporates before it hits the ground. a permanent chaotic engine of destruction. 8. Endless day. 6 months in, our concept of a day breaks down completely. A day now lasts a full year. No sunrise in the east, no sunset in the west. It takes 365 days to do a lap. One side of the planet faces the sun for 6 months straight. The other sits in total frozen darkness. The temperature difference gets extreme after just a few weeks. On the day side, without the cooling spin and the night cycle to vent heat, temperatures soar past boiling. It bakes the ground rock hard. Lakes and rivers boil away into steam. The surface becomes a sterilized desert, hotter than Death Valley on its worst day for months on end. Asphalt melts, concrete cracks. On the night side, temperatures plunge to minus 50 degrees Celsius or lower. The new polar oceans turn into giant ice sheets. The day side is also covered in thick clouds as water evaporates fast, triggering a runaway greenhouse effect. You might get a twilight zone along the Terminator line, a strip of land between day and night where you might technically survive, but you would be a nomad chasing the sunset forever, to stay in that narrow band, moving constantly across a ruined landscape to avoid freezing or boiling. Imagine trying to sleep. You can't. The sun has been up for 3 months. Your body is screaming for night, but night isn't coming for another 90 days. You'd go insane before you starved. Reason 9, cosmic radiation. Fast forward 3 years and something fatal happens deep underground, the core. We forget it's there, but it's literally the only thing keeping us alive down there. The liquid outer core is churning. That movement combined with Earth's rotation creates the geodamo. This is the engine that generates our magnetic field. This field is the invisible shield that deflects the solar wind and cosmic radiation. It's the only reason we aren't dead from space cancer right now. When rotation stops, that engine stalls. The geodamo fails. The magnetic shield weakens and then vanishes. The aurora borealis would flicker out forever. We become a naked planet. Without the magnetosphere, solar wind slams directly into our upper atmosphere. Over the next few centuries, the sun literally sandblasts our atmosphere into space, stripping away the ozone layer entirely. It turns Earth into a dry, irradiated husk, just like Mars. Mars used to have an atmosphere and water, but it lost its magnetic field, and the sun stripped it bare. Radiation levels on the surface would skyrocket immediately. It wouldn't be an instant death ray, but a slow, invisible sickness. High-energy particles would shred the DNA of any living thing exposed on the surface. Cancer rates would spike to 100%. Survival outside deep lead-lined bunkers becomes impossible. Even electronic equipment would eventually be fried by the constant bombardment of charged particles. Any tech we managed to save failed. Reason 10, extinction. 10 years later, after all that silence, almost every living thing has a circadian rhythm, an internal clock. It's baked into our DNA. It needs a 24-hour cycle. When the day becomes 6 months long, that clock is destroyed. Most plants can't survive 6 months of total darkness. Photosynthesis stops and they die. They also can't survive 6 months of boiling sunlight. They scorch and wither. When the plants die, the food chain collapses instantly. Herbivores starve, then carnivores starve. In the oceans, the currents stop moving oxygen and nutrients around. The water becomes stagnant and anoxic, lacking oxygen. This kills off marine life and mass die-offs that would turn the remaining oceans into a toxic soup of rotting organic matter. The smell of decay would be unimaginable, covering the entire planet. Between the radiation, the heat, the cold, the lack of air, and the food web collapsing, Earth becomes a biological dead zone. The only survivors, extreophiles, bacteria living deep underground, or tube worms clustered around volcanic vents at the bottom of the deepest trenches. They don't need the sun and they don't care about the spin. They run on geothermal energy. For them, the apocalypse happening upstairs might just register as a slight change in water pressure. They would inherit the Earth. Those were 10 reasons why Earth stopping means a very, very bad time. Can you think of any way humanity could actually survive this? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear your sci-fi survival strategies. Thanks for joining me on this ride. I'll catch you in the next video.